She didn't even look at him properly before judging him. Torn clothes, tired eyes, standing quietly near the office gate, just another beggar, or so she thought. Her words were sharp, her tone colder than the morning air. People noticed, some stayed silent, some smiled. But he didn't react. He didn't argue. He just looked at her for a moment, and walked away. What no one knew was that this beggar wasn't who he seemed. And the next day, when he walked into the office, not from the outside, but straight into the boardroom, everything changed. Stay till the end, because what he reveals will leave you stunned. The corporate building stood tall, a symbol of power, ambition, and success. Inside, every employee carried a sense of urgency, moving quickly through tasks, deadlines, and expectations. Among them was Hina, a confident and outspoken professional who had built her reputation on performance and precision. She believed in discipline, structure, and maintaining a certain image, both for herself and for the company she represented. That morning, as she approached the office, she noticed him standing near the gate. His clothes were worn, his posture slightly bent, and his presence didn't fit the polished environment around him. People walked past him without attention, as if he wasn't there. But Hina stopped, not out of concern, but out of irritation. "You shouldn't be standing here," she said firmly. Her voice carried authority, the kind that expected immediate compliance. The men looked at her calmly, not defensive, not offended, just observant. "This isn't a place for you," she added, her tone sharper now. A few employees nearby glanced at the situation, sensing tension. The men didn't respond. He simply nodded slightly and stepped aside. To Hina, the interaction was insignificant, a quick correction before starting her day, but to others watching, it lingered longer than expected. There was something about the man's silence that felt different. It wasn't weakness. It was control. Inside the building, Hina continued her routine, moving from one task to another, unaware that the brief moment outside would soon return in a way she couldn't anticipate. The office buzzed with preparation for an important meeting. Executives gathered, discussions formed, and anticipation grew around the arrival of someone significant, the company's top authority, a figure rarely seen but widely respected. Hina had never met him personally, but she knew his reputation. Strategic. Observant. Unpredictable in ways that often revealed deeper insights than expected. As the meeting room filled, there was a shift in energy. Conversations quieted. Attention focused. And then, the door opened. Footsteps entered the room, steady, confident, unmistakably in control. Hina looked up, and froze. The man who walked in wasn't unfamiliar. It was him. The same man she had spoken to that morning. The same man she had dismissed without a second thought. But now, everything was different. His presence carried authority. His appearance had changed, but not completely. It was enough to reveal the truth, but not enough to hide what had already happened. And in that moment, realization set in. The room remained silent, not out of confusion, but out of understanding. Everyone knew who he was. Everyone, except the one person who had judged him just hours earlier. Hina stood still, her thoughts racing, trying to connect the moment from the morning with the reality in front of her. It didn't make sense, but it didn't need to. The truth was already clear. He took his seat at the head of the table, his presence calm yet commanding. There was no anger in his expression, no visible reaction to what had happened earlier. But that didn't make it easier. If anything, it made it harder. Because silence can say more than words ever could. The meeting began as expected, discussions, presentations, strategic planning. But for Hina, none of it registered the same way. Her focus was divided, her confidence shaken in a way she had never experienced before. She had built her identity on control, on being right, on understanding situations quickly. And yet, she had been wrong. Completely. As the meeting progressed, he listened more than he spoke. Observing. Evaluating. Not just the work, but the people behind it. And then, near the end, he finally addressed the room in a way that shifted everything. "We often think we understand people the moment we see them," he said calmly. His voice wasn't loud, but it carried weight. "We judge quickly. Decide quickly. And move on without questioning our assumptions. The words weren't directed at anyone specifically, but they reached exactly where they needed to. Hina felt it immediately. Not as an accusation, but as a realization. But value, he continued, isn't always visible. And respect should never depend on appearance. The room remained silent, absorbing the message. There was no confrontation. No public embarrassment. Just truth, delivered in a way that left no room for misunderstanding. After the meeting, as people slowly left, Hina remained behind. Not because she was asked to, but because she needed to. She approached him carefully, her confidence replaced with something more honest. "I was wrong," she said quietly. There was no excuse in her words. No justification. Just acknowledgement. He looked at her, not with judgment, but with understanding. "It happens," he replied simply. The response wasn't what she expected. There was no harsh lesson, no dramatic consequence. Just a moment of clarity. Because sometimes, the most powerful lessons aren't taught through punishment, but through realization. From that day forward, Hina changed, not in a way that others immediately noticed, but in a way that mattered. She listened more. Observed more. Judged less. And most importantly, she understood that respect isn't something you give based on status, it's something you give because it defines who you are. And as for him, he didn't need to prove anything. He never did. Because the truth was already enough. Sometimes, the people we overlook are the ones who teach us the most. And sometimes, one moment of judgment can lead to a lifetime of understanding.